Thank you all for joining the call today, and we hope that you and your loved ones are safe and well. As you might have noticed in our Q1 FY22 invite, this time the expected duration of the call is 1.5 hours. We will have a management team led by our MD and CEO, Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, our ED, Mr. Uttam Tibrewal, Chief of Strategy for Commercial Banking, Mr. Vivek Tripathi, Group Head of Branch Banking, Rishi Dhariwal, CIO, Mr. Ankur Tripathi, and Lead Financial and Digital Inclusion, Ms. Sunanda Sharma, share their perspectives on the respective businesses. This will take around 30 to 40 minutes, followed by Q&A for about 40 to 45 minutes. We have a few other members from our senior management team here as well. For the benefit of everyone, we humbly request everyone that the number of questions per participant be restricted to a maximum of 2 and join back in the queue or mail us. And if we can avoid repeating any question which has already been asked. With that, I'll request our MD and CEO, Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, to share his thoughts on the bank's performance and outlook.
Thank you, Aseem. Good evening, everyone. Namaskar. Thank you for joining. We sincerely hope that you and your dear ones are doing well and keeping safe. It has been close to 6 quarters since the onset of the global pandemic. We stand in solidarity with the world for the loss of lives and livelihoods that is suffered globally during this time. With heavy heart, we would like to share that we lost 14 of our dear fellow colleagues during this pandemic. Even though we cannot fill the void, we are trying our best to support the aggrieved families left behind. Safety of our employees is of paramount importance to us. We are happy to inform you that 90% of our employees have been vaccinated with their first dose and 45% with the second dose. Quarter 1 of this year remained exceptionally challenging due to reasons known to all of us, but we demonstrated a very robust performance. I'm happy to share that entire team conducted themselves with a lot of commitment and courage, and I'm really proud of my team. The standstill caused by the second wave of COVID was for 6 weeks from mid-April to May end, but the impact of the lockdown was till June end. So the businesses suffered for 8 weeks, but we all came back strongly. The major difference between last year and this year as a financial institution is that there was no moratorium this time. Hence, the customer demonstrated better financial discipline. However, the demand still has the overcast of potential third wave. We received wholehearted support from the government and the regulators in terms of relief, reforms, and packages. Recently, the Ministry of MSME reinstated the PSL status of the trader segment. It will boost our other income during the year and also ensure continuous flow of credit to them at competitive pricing. As a result, in Q1, we grew our deposits by 38% year-on-year, reduced our cost of funds by 88 basis points year-on-year, grew our AUM by 22% year-on-year, and our asset quality, which is so important in this time, remained reasonably resilient despite the market volatility. We are very happy to share the launch of our digital bank, AU 0101, video banking, and credit card in this quarter. Going forward, we have priority for 6 focus areas, which I want to elaborate. The number 1 is scaling retail-focused and sustainable liability franchise. We managed the overall growth in our liabilities in last 5 quarters with focus on retail. Last quarter, we calibrated it considering the muted disbursements and managing the cost side. I'm happy with how we are putting a method to madness by putting in place many SOPs, developing insights and effective use of data, thereby building the right way to work. We believe that our deposit franchise is on the right track. We are keeping a balance between growth and cost. We believe our CASA ratio, CD ratio, cost of money, and ALM are going in the right trajectory. We have a lot of confidence that we'll continue to grow as a deposit franchise, balancing all these factors. More on liability franchise will be narrated by Rishi. The number 2 priority for us is to drive the sustainable growth from our asset products and similar customer segments. Our historical approach to assets remain small ticket size, for income generation purpose, secure lending, and risk-based pricing. And this really has helped us to emerge much stronger from this once-in-century pandemic. Our performance, our customer behavior during these challenging times have boosted our confidence and will continue to drive our asset growth by focusing on existing products which are Wheels, SBL, home loan, business banking, and agri-banking. And, of course, we'll deepen our penetration in our identified customer segments and markets. More on the asset strategy will be covered by Uttam. Collection, actually, was in focus for the entire business team throughout the last quarter. We touched base with all the customers and understood their present business situation. Due to lockdown restrictions, businesses were impacted. We stood beside our customer with a solution-oriented approach and provided necessary support after understanding each customer's business situation. In this quarter, despite our lockdown of almost 60 days, we were able to manage our asset quality. We restructured 1.9% of gross advances in Q1 FY22, which we feel is quite acceptable based on the current scenario. I'm happy to say that our customer responded well, and so did our team. Our customer has shown a strong intent to repay their loan, which has resulted in significantly better collection efficiency in June and July. The availability of legal recourse in July has ensured that customer accords priority to the resolution of its dues, which resulted some collection activity in 40% of our NP accounts in July. In my opinion, this is the first quarter since March 20 in which we are able to actually recover our dues on equal terms. As in the more color on the asset quality will be given by Vivek. The most important thing which we are all building is our tech-led ecosystem. Amongst the learnings from the pandemic, the one that emerged on top is the importance of technology. Though we always focus on investing in technology, but recently we have made significant strides towards becoming a tech-led bank. Our strategy around technology has 4-5 pillars. One of them is digital. Second is digitization/automation. Third is data and its analytics. Fourth is IT infra and security. Fifth is digital marketing. As per analysis, there are likely to be 15 crore digital first families in next 10 years, and for them, banking needs to be digital too. As a banking is all about trust in the coming times will be defined by convenience, availability, speed, security, flexibility, and being customer obsessed. These are the foundation on which we have designed our digital bank. The best part of the last quarter in our digital journey is that we have launched our digital bank, that is AU 0101, and we are all very excited and thrilled about it. This app offers solution around savings and FDs, credit card, loans, investments, insurance, bill payments, and other lifestyle solutions like cab and flight bookings, recharge, and tax payments. We are getting tremendous response for this. We now offer multiple channels of digital and contactless banking like video banking, WhatsApp banking, chatbot, which enable our customer to fulfill their banking requirement from the comfort of their living rooms. We have also launched credit cards for our customers. I'm happy to share that we are the first and only small finance bank to have its own credit card, and that on Visa. Till date, we have issued 25,000 around it. We also have installed 1 lakh QRs by Q1 and are scaling that up multifold this year. I personally believe that digital bank is the way forward, and it has to be supported by data and data analytics, which we are working upon. More will be communicated by Ankur in his call today. The fourth priority is around how we empower our team and make them more capable. Right? We hired close to 3,000 bankers in this quarter, including the tech team and the senior management. However, the uncertainty due to pandemic, with appreciation around the third wave, combined with the heightened competition in the SFB space, poses a challenge in terms of hiring, relocating, and retaining talent across the country, but more so at Jaipur. We are becoming the preferred poaching ground for many banks, NBFCs, and fintechs. This remains an ongoing challenge which we are trying to address. However, we continue to see some churn, including at senior level. The most important thing is to create a brand. The fifth priority is around creating a brand awareness around AU. We believe that a strong brand equity can be a significant enabler for a bank to achieve its long-term objectives, as it will enhance the awareness of a bank, its visibility, increase customer loyalty, and help in attracting and retaining talent. I'm very happy to announce on this call that we have onboarded Mr. Amit Khan and Madam Kiara Advani as our brand ambassadors. We are going live with our brand campaign in next couple of weeks, The most important purpose for being a small finance bank is our commitment towards ESG goal. We have been socially inclusive organization by design. Our business model has been focused on lending to the underserved segments in rural and semi-urban geographies, thereby creating employment, empowerment, and developing financial inclusive clusters. Recently, we received a special award as the best performing SFB from NABARD. It recognized our efforts in facilitating agriculture credit, driving financial inclusion, and in enabling technology adoption. More on financial inclusion and CSR will be covered by Sunanda. As we speak today, I feel that things are settling down quickly. July was better than June, and we hope that coming month will be far better in terms of lives with mass vaccination drives and livelihood with demand picking up. But this is all subject to how the third wave pans out in coming month. The growth momentum in the country has largely recovered from the slump of the second wave and looks on course to meet RBI's GDP growth forecast around 9.5%. Capex has picked up, especially for the SMEs, where we are seeing brownfield and greenfield expansions. I strongly believe that India is on the verge of creating history through resilience and a strong comeback. However, we still have to remain cautious in the next 3 quarters, factoring the impact of potential third and fourth wave. To sum up, I would like to say that we are cautiously optimistic, happy with how we have handled the roller coaster ride of last 6 quarters, and while we hope for the best, we are prepared for the worst. Quarter 1 in July gives me the confidence that light in the tunnel is slowly visible. We are all well positioned to make the best use of the opportunity in this country and the banking platform has to offer. We are now 3 quarters away from becoming eligible to apply for the universal bank license, and we will take right call at the right time. We are happy and grateful as how the 5-year journey is getting completed and how we are growing as a bank. This brings me the end of my time. Thank you and stay safe. Handing over to Uttam for his business outlook on assets. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sanjay. Namaskar. Good evening to all of you. The quarter gone by has been one of the most challenging in terms of human loss and emotional vulnerability. The pandemic and its effect on society at large has been discussed in much detail. Over the next few minutes, I endeavor to share some ground realities around our key businesses, Wheels, VL, housing, business banking, and agri-banking. But first, I would like to extend my gratitude towards every AUite who stood firm on ground with customer during this tough time. Our all employees, whether sales, service, or collections, were fully operational during the quarter with one mission to help customer find solutions and ensure that portfolio quality is paramount. While the situation had eased out, the customer footfall is lower than expected at around 50 to 60% of the pre-COVID level, and majority of the customers are deferring their business expansion plans, fearing the possibility of a third wave. The collection momentum in July has given us confidence to look forward to the remaining year, of course accepting that we have to live with waves and the impact may not be severe. I'm excited around the opportunity of all our asset businesses in the post-pandemic world. I'm happy to share some key insights on each of our businesses. First of all, Wheels. Wheels Financing is our flagship and largest business for the bank, where we have more than 25 years of experience. In line with the market, NPAs in this book is currently elevated to 5.9%, but we remain hopeful that opening up of the economy and resumption of certain segments like taxi and commercial passenger will aid resolution in coming quarters. We have already seen some traction in July. At rupees 40,000 crore of AUM across 6 lakhs customers, our Wheels business still remains relatively small compared to the larger players in this business who have AUMs upward of 50,000 crores. We believe we can continue to grow significantly above market in coming 2-3 years once the situation normalizes. Demand in new vehicles is expected to remain resilient with COVID-induced preference for personal vehicles as against shared mobility. OEMs remain bullish and indicators like advanced bookings, waiting periods, etc. are all quite positive. Similarly, used car market is expected to continue to grow at higher than new car sales market. Contribution of tractor segment has now reached to our 8% in wheels portfolio, and tractor demand is likely to be supported by a record Rabi output, record Kharif procurement, favorable crop prices, and expectation of normal monsoon for a third year in a row, all supporting rural customer sentiment. Two-wheeler is a fairly new segment for us, and we will continue growing cautiously in this business. We also remain watchful of the upcoming opportunity in EV space and are cautiously starting funding there. We believe there will be good demand for EV in coming times. FAME 2 and state subsidies are making these vehicles affordable, and there is an inclination in buying EVs. We are also looking at digital as a medium for enhancing customer experience and also automating and digitizing our internal processes to drive efficiency and cost optimization. We are building customer journeys, partnering with OEMs like Maruti, and strengthening analytics for pre-approved offers on AU 0101. Further, talking about our SBL business, it is our own product with a unique features like low ticket size, 50% LTVs, lending to unorganized MSMEs for business purposes, and secured by collateral. It is a highly granular and well-diversified business with no dominant segment or profile. This book has now scaled to rupees 14,000 crore AUM across 1.5 lakh MSME businesses, and has remained one of our most stable and resilient businesses, with NPA contained at 4.2% even during such a devastating pandemic. We will continue to target profiles which performed relatively better during the pandemic, like FMCG retail traders, grain merchants, fruits and vegetables traders, agriculture-related equipments, bakers, shops, and go on. We are also focused on increasing the business share from our existing states of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, and Chhattisgarh. While our core SBL markets of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Delhi provide steady growth, we may also look to enter some newer states like UP and Uttarakhand in near future. We have launched new digital onboarding application Rapid, embedded in hand-held device for improving efficiency of file logins and processing. This eventually leads to enhancement in productivity, reduced stat, and cost optimization. Moving on to home loans, we restarted our housing finance business on the banking platform about 3 years ago, and have now built a portfolio of rupees 1,400 crores, onboarding 13,000 customers. Between the current portfolio and our erstwhile subsidiary AU Housing, the management has more than a decade experience in the housing finance market, and we are now well positioned to take advantage of the market demand. Growth in this business is a natural progression for the team, with a deep understanding of customer behavior, understanding of various local nuances, with decade-long relationship with the market participants. At present, we are operating in 7 states and offer home loan at 190 plus locations and are adding branches every month. We do our asset business from 600 plus locations, and thus from here on, expanding home loans will be on a plug-and-play model. Our reducing cost of funds also give us an opportunity to tap into the better credit profile customers. Also, with RERA stabilizing and providing for better control over builder projects, we are also looking at increasing our share in good projects as we move forward. Overall, we have a small AUM of 1,400 crores with stable team, policy, and process. We have more than a decade of experience and relationship in this business, and have opportunity to expand our home loan offering to all our 600 plus locations from the current 190 odd. We believe the opportunity is really big for this business, and we can build a strong housing franchise in AU over the coming few years. Further, our 2 main businesses on commercial banking platform are business banking and agri banking, which we started on our banking platform, and after 4 years, the team looks well settled. Product, policy, and processes have all been put in place, with business performing resiliently during the COVID-induced pandemic. We have slowly built a gross advance book of about 3,000 crores in these 2 businesses, apart from a significant non-fund based business. Both these businesses provide strong fee opportunity in the form of non-fund based lending and transaction banking. The bank has onboarded more than 6,000 SME customers in these businesses in last few years, and are also working with the branch banking team to convert them in liability customers, helping our CA and SA balances. We will continue to grow this segment by focusing on expanding the geographic footprint, differentiating ourselves with servicing and providing bespoke solutions to MSMEs, and focus on liability and transaction banking business from these customers. With our declining cost of funds and settled team, AU is well positioned to take advantage of this upcycle and grow this business. Among the new businesses, while we will scale up credit card business, initially focusing on ETB customers, others like personal loans, gold loans, etc. are branch-like products where we want to service all the requirements of our deposit customers. All in all, our asset franchise is shaping up quite well with a mix of new and old businesses, all gunning to capture market share supported by stable team, reducing cost of funds, faster adoption of technology in our daily working, our ground connectivity, and our increased focus on penetration is our non-Rajasthan geographies. I am personally very excited to lead this business and look forward to sharing more with you in coming quarters. With this outlook, I will now invite my colleague Vivek Tripathi to share our views on the asset quality of these businesses. Thank you. Stay safe.
Everyone, I'll be giving a brief perspective on asset quality. Most of our borrower base is self-employed and running small businesses in the earn and pay segment. Therefore, was significantly impacted during the first and second wave of the pandemic. However, soon after the mobility improved and the businesses were allowed to open up, we saw collection efficiencies bouncing back to normal levels in both June 2020 as well as in June 2021. This time, pickup in collection efficiency was steeper compared to last wave. The collection efficiency and customer activation numbers of June and July are in line with our pre-COVID levels, which is March 20. The collection efficiency in June was at 114% compared to 95 and 94% levels in April and May. Further, collection efficiency in July 21 remained strong at 110%. Similarly, the customer activation has also improved to 92% in June and July as compared to 87-88% in April and May. On a gross NPA part, our GNPA remains stable. In fact, reduced marginally from 1,503 crores to 1,496 crores in absolute terms. However, situation remains fluid, and if there is no third wave and no further lockdown happens, then as of now, it looks to be under control. And July collection efficiency numbers also support the aforesaid statement. On the restructuring front, since there was no moratorium, unlike Q1 FY21, therefore customer had to approach us for restructuring, and we have facilitated these customers as per governance and regulatory requirement. We are seeing now significant tapering of demand by borrowers as situation is improving. Furthermore, only 1.9% of book availed restructuring in Q1 compared to 11% who had availed complete moratorium during FY21. In QY FY21. The bank has done 658 crores of standard restructuring in Q1, and as on 30th June, the bank has total of 1,265 crores of standard restructured book, which is 3.6% of our gross advances. Out of total gross advances on 30th June, 58% were originated before March 2020, and 42% were originated post-March 2020. Further, post-March 2020 book is 92% current and contributes only 2% of GNPA and 2% of restructured assets. The resilience of this book shows that the calibrated approach of underwriting during pandemic time has validated our understanding of chosen customer segment. We've also been cautious on fresh exposures to sectors such as hospitality, education, tours and travel, which are yet to recover from impact of COVID. On moratorium book, as on 30th June 2021, bank had outstanding 4 and 4+ months moratorium book of 4,900 crores, which contributes roughly about 79% of bank's NPA and 72% of restructured assets. However, 45% of this book is current and another 20% in the first and second bucket. Therefore, we expect further slippages to be minimal from this book. Bank has done cumulative ECLGS disbursement of 871 crores till June 2021, out of which 302 crore was done in Q1. On a security enforcement, bank had a limited legal recourse for security enforcement during April 2020 to June 2021, which is a 15-month period, both due to internal call to facilitate customers as well as lenient view of judiciary and administration. However, the customer intent to repay their loans has shown very strong traction, also resulted into a significant better collection efficiency. Further, availability of legal recourse to the bank have ensured that customer accord priority to resolution of their dues. This has resulted in high level of activity in almost 40 to 42% of our NPA account in July 2021. On provisioning part, the bank is carrying a provision of 730 crores against GNPA of 1,496 crores with PCR of 49%. provision of 207 crores against restructured assets of 1,265 crores, and over and above this, contingency provision of 190 crores. Bank has already provided accelerated provisions of 430 crores on NPA over and above the regulatory requirement. Our NPA book is quite granular with ATS of almost 1.5 lakhs in Wheels, which is secured by vehicles, around 7 lakhs in SBL, which is again secured by self-occupied residential properties or self-occupied commercial properties, where average LTV on NPA book is on principal outstanding is around 29%. Therefore, our historical credit loss has been low in both these books. Similarly, on restructured book is very, very granular and backed by revenue-generating assets or self-occupied collaterals. Therefore, we feel the current provisions are adequate to cover any slippages. It is also important to note that a significant number of our customers clear all their dues on the collection efforts or security enforcement notices. On residual part, where we need to enforce our security, our historical repo loss since FY19 has been around 35% in vehicle or any cause loss on settlement or property disposal in SBL has been around 20%. Therefore, keeping both these factors in mind, we feel confident that PCR of 49% is quite likely to be more than sufficient to cover any credit loss arising from this book. Further, over and above this, bank is also carrying a contingency provision for any unforeseen slippages or unforeseen environment. So that's it from my side. Handing over to Rishi.
Yeah, thank you, Vivek, and good evening, everyone. The liability team has the onerous task of ensuring uninterrupted services to customers as part of essential services. My gratitude to the entire team for their commitment in serving customers in the face of grave difficulty and exposure to risk. In its fifth year now, branch banking business is coming of age in AU and made these very exciting times for our 6,000 plus team members. Launch of AU 0101 Super App or credit cards and the upcoming brand campaign that Sanjay mentioned are the most awaited boosters to deepen our relationships with customers and drive customer acquisitions. We have also used the last quarter to make significant changes in the way we drive retail branch banking to achieve greater retailization, customer engagement and productivity, essentially bringing method to the madness of retail. Let me first touch upon overall business highlights before I share more details about how we are building the liability franchise. On the liabilities front, our overall savings deposits growth has been 166% year on year from 3,045 crores in Q1 FY21 to 8,102 crores this quarter. The bank has close to 15 lakh savings accounts as of June 21. Almost 1.25 lakh current accounts in June 21. Our current account business grew by 68% year on year from 824 crores to 1,387 crores. With the majority of our QR and POS deployed with these customers, we are able to capture the cash flows of these customers, opening up opportunities for lending. Our CASA ratio was 26% as of June 21 versus 23% in March 21 and 14% in June 2020. Improving our CASA balances and optimum pricing on our savings and deposits will help us to reduce the overall cost of our deposits. We activated 72,000 debit cards in this quarter. Our partnership with ICICI Prudential and Future Generali for life insurance and Aditya Birla and Care Health for health insurance have enabled us to sell more than 10,600 policies. We also have more than 34,000 3-in-1 broking accounts cumulatively through our partnership with Motilal Oswal Financial Services. In addition, we have about 9,000 customers who invest in mutual fund SIPs through AU. With mutual fund and broking services now available through our AU 0101 app, we expect these volumes to go up significantly. Over the last couple of years, we have built dedicated channels for current account, CAM, key account management, task, NR, and enterprise salary. Branch banking follows the philosophy of AAEDRR, which stands for Acquisition, Activation, Engagement, deepening retention and referral. Since the past 4 years, we have focused our efforts on acquisition and activation. Going forward, we'll be placing a lot of emphasis on engagement and retention to build sticky retail relationships. During the quarter, we've launched 3 new products: AU Platinum, a family banking program, Royal World targeted towards NR customers, and AU Power Current Account to fulfill the needs of retail merchants and traders who are tech savvy and aim to provide digital payment solutions to their customers. These initiatives have resulted in about 47% of the savings customers regularly transacting with us, with average transactions per transacting customers at 16.6 transactions during the quarter and product per customer at 1.4 products. Current account customers have better transaction volumes, with 62% of the 1.05 lakh customers regularly transacting with us at the rate of 57 transactions per transacting customer and PPC of 1.73. We believe that the RBI circular on current accounts should help us to grow our business with small businesses. I'll talk about our plans for physical distribution. So physical distribution is important for branch banking, and yet increasing digitalization poses a constant debate about the need for branch expansion. However, with 73% of all the deposits in the country located in metro and urban regions, where we have about 135 branches, we aim to expand in these markets to drive volume growth in deposits. With more and more transactions being done through digital channels, we are optimizing the size of our branches, given the shift towards digitalization and our own investments in video banking, where we take the branch to the customer's home or office. Digital initiatives around mobile app and video banking are key to drive customer engagement and conveniences. On our 0101 Super App, we have about 4.5 lakh users and growing daily. The number of transactions on the app have been increasing rapidly, recording approximately 20 lakh transactions in this quarter. We classify our customers as tech-savvy or digital customers. Migration of tech-savvy customers to digital customers is targeted through payment and cash management offerings, offers on credit cards, on debit cards, as well as e-com platforms. One of its kind offers platform embedded in our AU 0101 Super App, making it convenient for customers to avail offers, etc. A series of offers have been rolled out with the intention to increase customer engagement, like discounts on Swiggy, Big Basket, Domino's, and Make My Trip. These offers do result in balance improvements of customers, especially in the urban markets. I will now talk about our way forward. The initiatives on customer engagement, distribution, and people capabilities and investments, coupled with brand campaign that Sanjay touched upon, will enhance our brand acceptability and provide the much needed impetus to now take the foundations laid over the last 4 years to scale the business from here onwards. Stability in manpower leadership, our ability to attract talent, and commitment and dedication of our teams, our initiatives in training, gamification of sales processes, and customer engagement metrics through well-designed recognition programs for employees and reward programs for customers ensure that we are all geared up to grow the business to scale. One of the badlav brought by us 4 years back is now being implemented by others, with other banks also offering monthly interest on savings to customers, thereby benefiting the citizens of the country. We are very excited about our liabilities journey and are sure to make a differentiated retail banking franchise through our initiatives in customer engagement, AU 0101 Super App, video banking, and the upcoming brand campaign. My colleague Ankur will tell you more about the digital initiatives of the bank. Thank you.
And good evening, everyone. At AU, we aspire to be a tech-led bank and have been building our capabilities across all 5 pillars, namely digital, digitization, data, digital marketing, and infra and security. Last quarter, we launched our flagship digital property, AU 0101. It is accompanied with ecosystem of net banking, WhatsApp banking, auto chatbot, and video banking. Truly omni-channel and mobile-first platform AU 0101 offers full-stack payment suite and end-to-end onboarding journeys for savings account, fixed deposit, credit card, auto loan, personal loan, insurance, and investment products. It also offers host of lifestyle services including mobile recharge, hotel booking, flight booking, which are integrated with customers' AU Bank account for payments. Since the launch of 0101, we have seen 100% increase in new customer registrations and monthly active users have gone up by 25%. As of now, 97% of all financial transactions and approximately 63% of service requests are being done through digital channels. The feedback, love and appreciation our customers and employees have bestowed upon us is quite inspiring. We are pleased to share that AU 0101 is one of the top-rated banking apps on both Android and iOS platforms. Another key milestone in our digital journey is our video banking service. Bank has rolled out a dedicated video banking contact center with 100 video bankers. We have onboarded more than 4,000 customers and have done more than 6,000 interactions in the month of its launch. It perfectly complements our branch banking business. We foresee each video banker operating as one branch, with cash and check being an exception. In our industry-first initiative, we have integrated video banking platform on AU 0101 that enables customer to open savings account, fixed deposit account, and perform financial transactions. Customers can also do more than 300 service requests available with the bank. We launched AU Bank credit card on Fiserv and Visa platform. Through 0101, we have rolled out a 4-step journey for approximately 1 lakh savings bank, 1 lakh existing to bank pre-approved customers. We are in the process of rolling out similar journeys for non-pre-approved as well as new to bank customers. We are also building our merchant and SME stack, offering payments, reconciliation, and digital collection. We have acquired more than 1 lakh merchants on UPI QR, out of which we have industry-best activation of 60%. It gives us a great opportunity to build transaction banking relationship with these merchants. To further deepen our engagement, we have now started offering unsecured loans to merchant basis their transaction history. Another key player of digital bank is reaching out to the customer through contextual and real-time nudges. We have partnered with Adobe to build state-of-the-art marketing tech platform to enhance our capabilities for running campaign at scale. We are utilizing technology to digitize our sales operations process and build in efficiencies at scale. With these automations, we have also enhanced our data quality through more than 100 API validations in the backend. This makes our backend operations lean and scalable. More than 90% of our sales officers are now enabled with mobile apps, either through a separate app or through BYOD. With digitization of remaining 10% business plan for next quarter, we will be one of the very few banks to digitize its 100% of sales force. To bring the enhanced sense of security and convenience for our customers, we have channelized our efforts to strengthen our cyber security framework. We have invested in best-in-class security operations center. All components across network, infrastructure, and application undergo periodic vulnerability assessment and application security check. From an infra availability perspective, we have zero data loss for all critical transacting systems, with failover to DR environment fully automated. Over last 1 year, we have achieved an infra uptime of 99.99%. We envisage that tech-savvy customers will only engage with the bank through one of our digital properties. And only way to understand the customers is through data analytics. To sharpen our efforts to acquire, engage, and serve our digital native customers, we are steadily strengthening our data warehouse and data analytics capabilities. At the bank level, we have more than 400 employees dedicated to our digital bank agenda, shouldering responsibilities across technology, digital marketing, product, analytics, sales, and operations. We are strategically investing in our technology team to attract best tech talent. We have employees from premier institutes, mostly with fintech, consulting, investment banking, and e-commerce background, working on our digital roadmap. We are ramping our technology team and plan to hire more than 100 full-stack developers, product managers, and designers to further strengthen our digital and analytics outlook. Other than these initiatives, we are also building our stack for account aggregator, real-time offers, and BNPL, which we expect to launch this year. There is an immense excitement within our team, and we are not going to miss out on joy of building most customer-centric digital bank. To talk more on our technology and digital strategy, we'll schedule a tech day in coming months. IR team will confirm on exact slots in due course. Thank you. And now over to Sunanda for further updates on financial inclusion, CSR, and ESG initiatives.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. With the launch of our digital bank, we have expanded our wings, which will help us soar higher towards a more prosperous and sustainable tomorrow. In the ever-dynamic world full of uncertainties, it is our roots that have always guided us in the right direction. Mr. Tripathi just showed us the strength of our wings, and now I'm here to show you the depth of our roots. The very foundation of AU Bank was laid for empowering the economically weaker section by providing them better access to credit. Our business model is aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, as we have been lending to the underserved segments for the last 26 years. Our purpose of empowering India begins with eradicating poverty, which contributes to SDG 1, and reducing inequalities as per SDG 10. While we strive to build an inclusive society to address the social, occupational, and residential vulnerabilities. For us, financial inclusion is a vision of building a society where every individual has access to financial services, irrespective of his or her social economic background. With a systematic approach, we have segmented our financial inclusion efforts in 3 key dimensions. That is, improving access, increasing usage, and enhancing quality through financial education. The Access, Usage and Quality Framework approach is adopted from RBI's National Strategy for Financial Inclusion. For improving access, we have established 31% of our touchpoints in unbanked rural centers and have presence in 41 special focus districts as recognized by NABARD and NITI Aayog. For increasing usage, we offer a bouquet of financial services that include basic saving bank deposit accounts, microinsurance and pension, and credit products tailored to the needs of financially vulnerable sections. We have served more than 1 lakh Jan Dhan customers and secured over 30,000 under Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, Suraksha Bima Yojana, and Aati Pension Yojana to address the social vulnerabilities. To address the occupational vulnerabilities, we have offered income-generating loan under Mudra and PM Swanidhi to more than 3 lakh customers. We have funded affordable housing projects under PM Awas Yojana for more than 5,000 customers from economically weaker sections, addressing their residential vulnerabilities. For enhancing the quality of consumption of banking services, we conduct financial literacy camps through street plays in the local core to focus on concept literacy. For process literacy, our digital literacy counselors aid our customers in their digital journeys. While financial inclusion is providing a strong social perspective to business at AU, the CSR wing is continuously working towards community development. Till date, we have empowered more than 1,000 women under AU Udyogini program, established 2 women community institutions, promoted 50+ women entrepreneurs in rural areas. Besides that, the AU Foundation team has conducted over 4,000 financial and digital literacy camps with an outreach of 5 lakh plus beneficiaries across 12 states. Side by side, AU Foundation team works relentlessly to support the nation during the COVID times. The team set up infrastructure for COVID relief, supported 10,000 migrants, conducted vaccination drives, and distributed safety gear for frontline workers. In all, we have contributed 7.5 crores towards COVID relief measures till date. Summing up with the ESG framework, I have sufficiently covered the social aspect. Through our efforts in digital and digitization, we have been able to positively impact the environment by reducing our carbon footprint. Our digital customer onboarding journeys have led to positive externalities in terms of reducing paper and fuel usage. Strong governance has been the backbone of our growth since the start of our journey, which has been further validated time and again by markets, regulators, and rating agencies. With our first integrated annual report in FY21, we have taken a step to track our ESG impact more closely and will ensure increased monitoring and reporting on all three dimensions of this framework. We at AU understand that the new reality will require us to pivot our finances towards greener, responsible, and more sustainable areas while maintaining a strong asset book and ensuring growth for all our stakeholders. While we know the journey is long, we are committed to building the bank for all. With this, I will now like to hand over to Tanvi for Q&A.
Thank you. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to withdraw yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. We request our participants to restrict their questions to 1 question per participant. We will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Rohan Mandora from Equirus Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Good evening, and congrats on a good set of numbers. Sir, if you could share what would be your total T+ overdue, including NPAs, as of June end and as of March 21 end? And second, on slide 22, we have shown a comparison on new credit PAR 90 plus versus overall. Now, as I understand, the underwriting standard will be similar in both category of customers. So, what would be the reasons why delinquencies are higher in the new to credit customers? What are our observations there?
New to credit. So, Vivek here. I'll answer both your questions. So as far as I would give you an answer that our 30 plus, when you say 30 plus, it's SMA 1 bucket you're saying and SMA 2 bucket. Both put together is about close to 6.7% as on 30th June. As far as our, if you look at our core customer segment and the areas where we operate, it's over the year period we've mastered, the understanding of those customers because most of them, are new to credit. So almost historically the ratio was much higher. Obviously now because the credit flow to those areas have also increased, but still 30 to 32% of our customers is NTC, right? And so our understanding of that customer segment enable us to underwrite them better than the some of the urban segments, and that is why you would see that credit behavior of the segment has always historically have been better with us.
Sure, sir. And so one more thing, since roughly 6% is in SMA 1 plus 2, and from annual report, we have indicated that 14% of the loans were contributing to majority of stress, of which roughly 6% were in the non-NP and non-current category. So would it be fair to assume that there's a fair amount of overlap between these two segments right now?
4 and 4. No, so it's not that entire 4 and 4 plus book is under stress, right? Within that book also, 45% of my customers current. The people who are the customer base which availed 4 and 4 plus moratorium, 45% of that book is current.
Right. But the remaining amount comes to roughly 6% of the book, and we are having similar SMA 1 plus 2.
Yes. So that's fair, Rohan. I would say, in addition to what Vivek ji said, I think that's a fair assumption to make, that there will be a significant overlap between 4 and 4 plus and the SMA book.
Sure, sir. Thanks. I'll get back in the queue for any additional questions.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitin Agarwal from Motilal Oswal Securities. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening and congratulations on good results. Couple of questions, like firstly on the disbursement side, of the 1900 crore that you've disbursed in this quarter, if you can indicate how much we have done in June and how has been the trend in the current quarters so far. And also, like, out of curiosity, if I look at the disbursement in Wheels are like more than 6 times of the MSME, which is the largest vertical for us. So what has caused this gap this quarter? Because I thought Wheels is like equally at stress or maybe more at stress.
What is June number disbursement? Out of this 1900, do you have a number? Just a minute, Nitin.
Yeah. Almost 7 crores. Close to 7 crores.
Okay. So June number, Nitin, I am Sanjay Agarwal this side. So June number is close to 1,000 crores. And July also we have touched around 1,300 crores. So July is far better than June. And what is your other question?
The other is like of the total disbursement, Wheels is like more than 6 times MSME, which is the largest vertical for us. So why this sort of anomaly? I thought Wheels is like probably more at risk than other segments.
Listen, Wheels is 5.9% gross NPA, right? If that's what you're mentioning in SBL.
No. Let me answer. Nitin, Vivek here. The disbursement in Wheels and the SBL difference is because primarily the Wheels, there was a latent demand for new vehicle, and so the disbursement number has picked up in the month of June. SBL, where it is largely B2C customer segment, retail trade, largely. Therefore, the effect of lockdown on that segment was for a much longer period, and the disbursement which you would see has started picking up from this month, and we would see greater momentum in the coming months, right? So we expect with the festivity and festive season, this number will pick up again. But yeah, Wheels is a very, very direct correlated business with activity at our dealership, and that is why you see greater traction there.
Okay, sure. And secondly, on the liability side, if you can touch upon like how the SA balances per customer is moving now. We are seeing very strong traction on savings rate, backed by the interest rates also that we are offering. And so what are our thoughts also on the SA rate? Like we have changed some slabs, but will we continue to maintain this high savings rates?
So we have reduced our. If I first talk about the rates, right? The structure of the rates that we offer allows us to tweak them to ensure that our cost of funds is sort of optimized, right? And till how long we will offer the high rate is something that we will calibrate as our book grows. But currently our SA book is at 8,102 crores. So I would believe that that is a call that we will take over a period of time. But if you would look at the structure that we offer, up to 25 lakhs, we are not really offering a very high rate, which has helped us to optimize our overall rates. We are able to, retailize the overall savings book with the good traction on the savings acquisition and the current account acquisition in the last couple of months. Again, of course, April and May were difficult, but June and July, our acquisitions are back to what we were doing in say Jan and Feb. So we do believe that we can continue to retailize the book and keep the costs under control, because if we originate at the lower end of the overall buckets in which we offer pricing, we should be able to continue to retailize and manage the cost of borrowings on the savings, the cost of deposits on the savings book.
Okay. Lastly, if you can talk about how the collection.
Sorry to interrupt. You may please come back in the queue, please.
Sure, thanks.
Participants are requested to restrict your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have any further questions, you may please join the queue back. The next question is from the line of Hiral Desai from Anived Portfolio Managers. Please go ahead.
Hi Sanjay, I had a couple of questions. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah. So one was on the collection side. So just wanted to get a sense on how you guys have managed collections post the second moratorium. Because, clearly delinquencies have gone up, people movement has been a challenge in, last couple of months. So how large is the team today versus, where it was in FY20? And for deeper buckets, do you work with agencies? So if you could just give us a framework on the collections bit.
Yeah. So Vikrant is here, who heads our collection, Hiren. So he'll be the right guy to speak on this. So over to you, Vikrant.
So, hi, Hiren. Regarding our field approach, collections approach, I would say things have definitely eased out over the last 2 months. With the COVID restrictions lifting up, our face-to-face interactions with customers gone up. With regards to our strategy, what we've done is we have formed a special task force comprising of collections, credit, business team. And of course, we have been providing a solutions-oriented approach. This is the feedback which has been coming from this task force. Of course, our legal recourse, which were a little subdued, I would say, in April and May. With June onwards, we have changed our stance, and that is also helping us pick up our recoveries. You talked about agency penetration. Largely, our agency setup is in Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities. In Tier 3, Tier 4, we continue to have our strong presence of in-house team.
And how large is the team on the collection side, as in number of people?
So we'll have over 2,000 collection executives on the ground.
Okay.
So just to add what Vikrant has commented, so I would say from last whole 1 year, post June 20, our collection team remained very agile and very specific on collections. Of course, last full year, we didn't have any legal recourse, so we had very soft kind of collection approach. But entire team, whether it's sales, operations, credit, field investigation guys, even collection guys, through agency, we put all the resource to really have a focus on understanding customer first, whether he's able to pay us, whether he's able to build his business. So I believe last year also we had a phenomenal number outcome because of our effort. This year, of course, April, May was completely, was washed out. But June we came very strongly, and again we built entire ecosystem to really have to understand our customer first and then see whether he can repay in near future or whether he's not even, is not able to pay us. So I think it's a very well-rounded approach and with a lot of focus from senior team ownership. And I believe the kind of response we are getting now after we build an equal kind of system with customer now, because we do have also legal recourse available. So I strongly believe that if COVID third or COVID fourth doesn't come, then we are again, can build a very decent number around it.
And Sanjay, the second question was, I think, during the asset quality update, I think there were some numbers mentioned on the vintage of the pool, right? Like on the restructured book which was sourced prior to March 20. So if you can just repeat that number, because I missed those numbers.
Yeah, Vivek here. So the 58% of book was originated before March 20, and that was on an overall gross advance level, not at the restructured book level. And 42% is post-March. The contribution, I was talking about the contribution. The older book was contributing largely on the NPA and restructured asset. The new book has shown very good resilience, and the learning around COVID was there in an entire underwriting approach.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Sanjay, and thanks for a very detailed and elaborate explanation on the business here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
The next question is from the line of Amit Nanavati from Nomura. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Just wanted to check again on the collection trends, right? At least the entire quarter, say 101% collection efficiency was quite strong, especially in the context of April and May, where the collection teams were also impaired in general when we take feedback across companies. So to your mind, what really worked best for us in the sense that you had a legal recourse option which was available this time around, not available last time around, much strengthened collection team this time around versus last time when we entered into a wave one, or in general, if there was a resilience in the customers this time versus last time? If you can just qualify that.
Yeah, hi, Vivek here. So if you compare last year, as I said, the major difference was, with the approach itself. There was a moratorium, so a lot of people opted for moratorium. This time the option was for restructuring, that customer has to come forward and request us, and we will evaluate. That was one of the major driving factors. And if you even look at the collection efficiency during the peak of pandemic in April and May, which was around 94-95%, vis-a-vis of 58% of the similar period in last year. So the difference was from the approach of customer, right?
And second, I would want to really compliment my collection team and the whole environment around AU in terms of our approach. So I think we might be running one of the best collection team in the country, to be very honest, because the way they build themselves, even in the toughest time, signifies that, right? And it is not about last year and this year. If you really see our data of even Q2 of last year or Q3 of last year, even Q4 of last year, was significantly higher from the competition, right? So I would say collection in AU is in our DNA, So, and we run a model called, lending and collection. So I think that's the overall approach, which really helps us in this tough time also.
Certainly, sir, this is clearly showing up. Secondly, if you can just give some comments around the Onan pool, right? 1.5% has reduced to 0.3%. Just wanted to understand whether there is a flow forward or reversal to earlier DPD buckets.
Yeah. So on Onan pool, since there was a onset of major issues in April and May, so almost 20% of Onan pool is as we speak we have, right, out of, if we talk about whatever we had at 31st March. 30% got upgraded where they've repaid the overdue and became regular with us. Almost 50% got slipped because the further pandemic second wave hit them hard.
Understood. Last thing, any outlook on growth if you want to kind of comment on? I understand wave 3 will still have some uncertainty. But similar to last time, if we are seeing some traction where we can kind of cover it up for the rest of the year?
Difficult one, to be very honest. I would rather want to wait for one more quarter because there is a lot of discussion around the COVID 3, COVID 4. So otherwise, you have seen our data, which says that, once the normalcy comes in, we'll have a lot of opportunity, honestly. And I personally believe post-pandemic, and I don't know the time frame, India is in the verge of another kind of growth story for next 10 years. A lot of capex, I'm seeing it, a lot of new things coming in, your own market, old tech, how they are shaping up, So I believe let's wait, how we handle this COVID 3, COVID 4 kind of, the challenge, and then I think we should talk about growth,
Thank you, sir. That's it from my side. All the best for future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Renish Harish Bhai Pua from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir, and congrats on our set of numbers. So sir, just couple of questions. One on the inactive customer pool of 8%. So I'm referring to the 521. So full paying customers are 88, part paying are 4%. So I'm assuming the rest 8% are inactive. So what percentage of these customers are already sort of recognized either as NPL or restructured, or we have disbursed the ECLGS?
Renish, you're referring to the activation slide, right? Where basically we are saying that 88% of the customer had paid full EMIs and 4% had paid part EMIs.
Correct.
So sorry, just to understand your question better, what you're saying is, where is the balance 8%? Is that the question?
Correct. Yes.
So, Vivek here, this number keeps on, so it is not the same customer who pays every month. So there is a pool where you have a consistent, customer repayment. There is a pool which pays this month and maybe because of certain difficulties may not be able to pay next month. So the formation of that, and it is at a gross advance level, this would be around the same level. Even the pre-COVID time, this is at the same level, right? Where almost 90-92% of the customers would pay every month. Which 92%? That 8% is not constant, I'm saying.
Got it. So this 8% is not a static pool.
Yeah, not a static pool. Yeah.
Got it. So next question is, again referring to what Rahul has asked initially on the moratorium book. Okay, so as per the annual report, out total 14% of the moratorium book, 3% was already recognized by March 21, and of that 11%, 44% was current. So the rest 6 to 7%, what is the current status? How much of it is again sort of restructured in June quarter, and how much is recognized as NPA in this 200 crore kind of a specific number?
Across NPA restructuring. No, I think it's very specific data. It's split across, NPA restructured. This would be something. So probably you can write to us.
Yeah, Ranish, I mean, specifically we won't have, but if you, I think the way you're coming from is that if 45% of them are current, and what we have mentioned in our annual report commentary as well, that most of the challenges were faced by this segment, and any kind of facility in terms of restructuring or ECLGS or even forward flow to NPA had come from this portfolio. So it's safe to assume that, most of them would have been falling in one of the three buckets.
Got it. I just wanted to make double sure of that there is overlap, which is a good thing. Okay. That's it from my side. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Bhavik Dave from Nippon India Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Two questions. One is, sir, on the restructured pool this time around, if you see that 600 crores going to 1200 crores, but the number of facilities or the number of customers, if I may put it, has like almost more than tripled, right? So that means that either the customers incrementally are either vehicle finance customers or customers who have significantly paid out their loan, and last maybe 20-30% is left, and that data that you provided last time around. So just wanted to understand what is this incremental restructuring of 600 odd crores, and the number of customers are also higher this time. So is it like the customers have paid up most of it and remaining is 20-30%, or is it like a lower end of the customers, maybe used vehicles are restructuring? Just if you could explain that.
Yeah. Hi, Vivek here. So on a absolute term, if you look at 658 crore, the number of customers looks higher because there was a good amount of restructuring happened in the Wheels book as well. So the average tickets in Wheels is very, very less, and that is why you see more number of contracts.
Okay, so incrementally 600 odd crores is towards more towards Wheels, right? Is that a fair assumption?
I would not say more towards Wheels. 90% is between Wheels and SBL, and it is almost equal in both the books. But as I said, the ticket size in Wheels is much lower, hence you see a larger number.
Sure, that's helpful. And second question is, I remember RBI last time around in the monetary policy talking about having a special window of 10,000 odd crores for SFBs, where we can borrow from the RBI at repo rate on lending towards the type of customers that we lend. Are we utilizing that limit, as that will help us get our cost of funds down further, right? Versus our 6% odd cost of funds, 6.8, the incremental borrowing can come at the repo rate. So is that a facility that we are utilizing for on lending? Have we utilized that during the quarter, or what is the thought?
So I'm Abhay Yogesh this side. So we have not utilized that facility because we are flush of liquidity as of now in March also and this quarter also. So at the right time we will see, because ultimately that money will come with the government security pledging. So I have to first buy security with my money, and then only I can go and get that repo money on repo rate. So ultimately it's using my money only. First I have to borrow from market on some rate, and then only I will get that money on 4%. So as far as we have lot of liquidity, I think we have not utilized that facility.
Sure, that's very helpful. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitesh Jain from Investec. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. So two questions. Firstly, on the affordable housing finance, how are we structuring our that segment of the book? Have we created a separate team, and how ready we are to scale that book? How do you see that book scaling up over next 4-5 years? And secondly, sir, on the collection and asset quality, if you can give some more color, because if I look at the performance that we have seen, that is significantly better than any other company operating in the same segment. Is it to do with our geography, which has helped us in showing such better improvement, or entire credit goes to our collection team? Or if you can give some more color on that, that would be helpful.
So I think we should answer the second one first. So Vivek, can you do that?
Yeah.
Or Vikrant, whatever. Yeah.
So I think we've given a very specific slide to which talks about, and there is a highly correlated line if you look at the mobility. How our book, as I said that in my opening remark as well, that it is a very, very granular book, and the kind of businesses we fund, the customer, the moment you have the business shut and there is a mobility restricted, they stop paying. But as soon as the mobility improves and as they are allowed to operate, the collection efficiency picks up. Obviously, there could be a difference, as you said, that vis-a-vis our competition, but there could be a difference between the customer, segment, I would say more or less same, but approach, engagement, and as well as our collection efforts. So I think it's a combination of all three.
If I look at the collection efficiency of the month of April and May, and April and May were the 2 months where there was a sort of complete lockdown in Rajasthan and our key geographies. Even those months, the collection efficiency is pretty good.
Yeah. So as I mentioned that, the customer this time had to choose for something called restructuring if they wanted to avail some facility like moratorium. And a lot of people did not opt for it. So they continued to pay. And those who were severely impacted and those who had issues around health or family issues or businesses were completely shut, those customers only opted for not to pay.
Yeah, and just to add there, if you again go back and see our March numbers, right? So there was a significant portion of portfolio which was classified as NPA, but were still paying customers, right? I think 88% of the Unan pool was paying. So some of the businesses post-pandemic one had kind of been recovering, over a period of time. And probably the cash flows were there to support for 1 or 2 months. Ultimately, it was just a 2 months lockdown, right? Or rather 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. Uttam sir, maybe you can take up the home loan question.
Yeah, so Ritesh, regarding the team towards housing business, so it's a specialized business and we have formed a separate dedicated team to scout this housing loan business. And as I mentioned that we are presently working out of 190 locations, total 600 locations. So we are forming a dedicated team, be it business, be it credit, because we understand this business from last 10 years. So it's a dedicated team separately for scouting this business.
Yeah, so just to add on what Uttam said, actually to be very honest, our core housing business is to do affordable housing finance. We have done from last 10 years, and we are very confident that the team which Uttam has built, is doing fabulous job, and I think we are looking very, very strong to do affordable housing space for AU Bank.
Sure. So because I see the opportunity is pretty huge. There are players who are lending at 13-14%. With that cost of funding, we can build a very large, good quality book over the next 3 to 4 years. And if you can share any guidance or any vision that you have for the business over the next 3 to 4 years, that would be useful.
Yeah, I would say housing will be because housing we started just 3 years back, but it would be our number 3 book in next 5 years. And of course, about the whole cost of money at bank level and the whole length of it. So I would say, I don't think that housing being built at around 13-14%. The average IRR around, even in affordable housing space, is around 11-12%. And we are very comfortable with the NIMs there. It is being supported by government, it is supported by NHB. So, and this book is very exciting, and the kind of growth we are showing there gives us a lot of hope.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manish Shukla from Citigroup.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you. Just one question on credit card. Just wanted to check your thought process and plans around the businesses that you have given about 100,000 pre-approved, of which 20,000, 25,000 have been issued. Will it largely be from existing liability customers, or you intend to go to open market as well?
No, Manish. So for me, credit card is one of the most important payment mode, and we are very happy that team has pulled up an incredible whole franchise around it till now, and we are really open for the open new customer or even a pre-approved base. So it will be a combination of both, but it's still very early days. We just launched in the last quarter only. So I think the whole strategy will be forming in this year only. But we are open for a whole lot of ideas there. So, and I would love everybody to use that card. It comes with a lot of offers, a lot of excitement.
Sure. And you have a sense of how large could this be in 2 to 3 years' time of your overall assets?
So data, again, if you talk about opportunity, it's just what 6.5 crore people have the cards, 3 crores. So, and a number of people maybe around 5 crores, right? And how the India is growing and how the whole e-commerce space and online space is growing, any number, can be only a guessing game. So we are such a small to begin with, honestly. So I think finger crossed, let us build right product, right delivery, right kind of branding around it this year, and then we may talk about the whole long-term plan, maybe in coming quarters.
Sure. Just one continuation on the housing loan. Okay, fine. I'll take that later. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. The next question from the line of Abhijit Sakhare from Please go ahead. Mr. Abhijit Sakhare, yes, you may proceed.
Yes, hi. Good evening. Sir, going back to the collections part again, so in normal times, how much of our collections generally happen in cash once there is a bounce with the customer?
So normally we see around 25% of our customers who walk into our branches or our team members reach them for cash collection. Remaining 75% collection happens through presentation and online mode.
And sir, just following up, during April and May, this number would have gone up significantly higher?
April, May. Of course, was a slow month for us, so no.
Okay, and just one more on the collections bit, the 88% activation as of June, that number that you've given, what would that number be in April and May?
Abhijit, probably you can write that. We don't have the data right now, but maybe you can write to us and we'll get back to you. Sorry, Vikrant, you have it?
So it was around 83% in April and May.
Okay.
Okay. Very helpful. Thanks. And second one quickly is, if you can give two numbers. One is, what would be the size of cash on wheels book as of June? And second one is the ECL book of 800 crores that we have, ECLGS book. Which segments of the loan book have used this facility the most?
ECLGS. So, yeah, Vivek here. My cash on wheel book as on 30th June is close to 1800 crores, right? And ECLGS as a facility largely utilized by MSME segment, which cut across largely SBL because we have large book there, and small amount of business banking and agri banking customers. The contribution of wheel is still lower in that, but because of second pandemic wave, wheel customers avail as well.
Okay, sure. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nikhil Valecha from SBI Life. Please go ahead. Nikhil Valecha from SBI Life, you may proceed with your question, please. We are not able to hear you. Please unmute your line and proceed with your question. As there is no response, we'll move to the next question from the line of Rohan Mandora from Equirus Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello. So just one data keeping question. What would be the unbooked treasury gains at current yield?
Yeah, Rohan, we could not hear you. Can you just repeat the question?
What would be the unbooked treasury gains at current yield?
Unbooked treasury gains.
So we don't disclose actually, Rohan, because it's normally go with the treasury activity. So once we see interest rate opportunity, accordingly we take call and then go with the market. Right, so.
Sure. And just one more question was on the deposit interest expense line that we have for the quarter. So if we see from 3Q to 4Q, there was almost 10.5% sequential growth in deposits plus borrowing. But if we see the interest expense in 1Q vis-a-vis 4Q, there is a decline. There is the average cost of funds declined by only 20 basis points. So what explains the sharp decline in the absolute interest expense sequentially? Vis-a-vis the growth that we have seen in the previous quarter.
Yeah, this is Rohan. So this is a data keeping question. Can we take it offline, please?
Sure.
You write to us and probably we'll get back to you.
Sure, sir. Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhijit Sankari from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead.
Hey, just one follow-up on the savings account side. Have we revised rates again in the last 1 month, let's say in July itself?
Yeah, Rishi, you want to answer this?
Yeah, we have taken a small change in the savings rate in higher buckets where some rates at the higher end have been revised to 4%.
So in effect, this brings down the cost of SA or it pushes it up?
Yeah, definitely.
It will reduce the SA cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Madhusudha from Quantum
Thanks for taking my question. I just have one question. For the first quarter, your cost to income ratio is around 50%, which is quite low. But what would be the sustainable rate like going ahead? Is it going to be low or is it going to increase for the going ahead? I mean, what is any kind of guidance as to what should the cost to income ratio look like going ahead?
Yeah, hi, madam. Yeah, as you know, AU is a growing franchise, and we are investing in a lot of properties around digital and our brand campaign, and also we are building a new product line across credit card, QR, the housing business. So, and there are a lot of levers to actually manage your ROA. So we are using around cost of money, asset yields, So I think this variable we are not so much focused, to be very honest. But anything low to mid of 50s can be a number where we want to drive on. As of now is around 52%, but because we don't know how the markets and how the environment would be next 2 to 3 quarters, so don't want to comment much on that. But I think anything around 50 to 55%, is quite acceptable to us. Basically, this is our yield IRR and the cost of money.
Okay, got it. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it from my side.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Aseem Pant for closing comments.
Thank you.